Hello and welcome to Talking to Urithiru. This is part 12 of my Oathbringer preview chapter analysis, and let's jump straight in, as per usual. Spoiler warning for the full Cosmere. This week we got chapter 22 to 24. I'm going to stick all those prefaces together and I'm just going to read those to you now. I'm no philosopher, to intrigue you with piercing questions. I'm no poet, to delight you with clever allusions. I have no doubt that you are smarter than I am. I can only relate what happened, what I have done, and then let you draw conclusions. I really feel Dalinar is basically confirmed at this point. The mention that the reader might possibly be smarter than the writer, the fact that they say they are no philosopher, this really seems to me, for me, have taken Jasnah out of the race for the author, and has really put Dalinar up there as top billing for me. Other than that, we just have the general meandering of words and whatever. Not a big surprise that the epigraphs aren't telling us anything because they haven't so far, so why would they start now? Now, let's go on to chapter 22, called The Darkness Within. I was kind of hoping that this chapter we'd see this conversation from Edelen's perspective, just so we had a nice bit of dramatic irony going on, but instead we got something far juicier. I mean, straight out of the gate, we've got Mraize's pet bird. Everyone, including me, we all jumped that this is an Avia. And it is possible that this could be an Avia, but I'm not super convinced. And I have some reasons for and some against, and then I have some reasons that are both for and against, and you'll see. So, arguments for this being an Avia. Firstly, Mraize has a pet bird, and that's weird. Why would he have a pet bird? Is the pet bird an Avia? This explains why he has a pet bird. So, pretty simple. We know Mraize is a world hopper, so he has the capability to get an AVR, even though it does say that the First of the Sun is quite hard to get to. We know he likes to collect things. We've seen from his the room that he met Shallan in Worlds of Radiance. He has a little collection of all the things from various worlds. So taking a bird from First of the Sun is a very Mraize thing to do, in my opinion. Another point is, why would he have this bird on him now, when he's undercover? Because if you're undercover, you don't want to have something obvious, with you. But if that bird is promoting you a special ability, then it makes perfect sense for you to have a bird with you, because you want to have it for a special ability. And you've also got the point that Shallan doesn't recognise this bird. So is it not native to Roshar? This is a very strong argument. My arguments against this being an AVR. The point about this being why would he have a bird on him? This actually might be part of his undercover act, If he suddenly goes missing one day, no one's going to ask, where did the guy with the scars all over his face go? They're going to say, where'd the guy with the bird go? So it could be like a distraction thing as a technique for, being undercover. The point about him being a world hopper is that, he might have access to First of the Sun, but from the Arcanum Unbounded essays, we know that First of the Sun is somehow hard to get to for some reason. We don't know why. But knowing Mraize, he has a way past this. A point about if this is a magic bird, that actually would make you not want to have it with you when you're undercover. Because if you're undercover and you've got a magic bird, that magic bird is probably going to be something that you want to have with you when you're not undercover, and so having it with you when you are undercover is a really bad idea. So basically, I find there's good reason for him to have an AVR and have it with him when he's undercover, and also when it's not being an AVR and for him to not have it with him, but also have it with him. There's lots of arguments for me on both sides. I'm not going to jump to conclusions. I am leaning to the side that it is one, simply because it's Mraize, and, this is a very Mraize thing to do. We've seen him do it in the past. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And before we move on to the rest, to Mraize and Shallan's conversation, I'd like to point out that Eli is heating her tea on heating fabrials. So Urithiru is basically almost completely out of Stormlight. It is completely, the Radiants basically don't have any left to practice with. And Eli is sitting here using this very precious Stormlight to warm her tea. Makes it pretty proud. Okay, so Mraize and Shallan have a little conversation in the back room, and a few things to take away from this. Firstly, Eli is not a ghost blood. Mraize is just watching her. Number 2, Mraize is actually more than willing to accept Listener as allies if their goals align with the ghost blood's goals. Number 3, Mraize knows that Shallan used the ghost blood symbols the night before, which I find a curious little detail. Mraize says that Jasnah attacked them first, and I'm not 100% surprised that if this is going to be true, because Jasnah did have her whole network of spies and assassins under her payroll. She said she just had it so that they weren't used against the Colina family, but I'm not 100% convinced on that. Mraize acknowledges that there is something wrong with Urithiru, and it does seem to me that this really strengthens the unmade argument, that there is an unmade currently, at Urithiru, and is really focusing its power there. And finally, we have Mraize promising some information on Helleran. Whether this information is about his death and Kaladin's role in that, or whether it's about Helleran being alive. We can't really say at this point. I'm more leaning on the Kaladin thing, just because the series of events that had to happen in order for Helleran to be alive, they don't really work out. He'd have to have the Shardblade, he'd have to have sought out the Skybreakers, then at some point given up the Shardblade to someone with Shardplate, which, it just doesn't work out for me. Where would he have got the Shardblade from originally? Why did these people allow him to join the Skybreakers? It just doesn't work out for me. So that's why I'm definitely leaning on Helleran got the plate and blade from somewhere, and that was him that was killed by Kaladin. Notice how that when Mraize mentions Helleran, Shallan almost instinctively tries to go back into being Veil and says that she can't. And, we saw a lot of Words of Radiance of Shallan coming out of her shell, but really it just seems like she's traded one shell for another. Moving back onto Eli and Adelin's conversation now. Eli suspects that the murderer is within Kholin ranks, within the Kholin army, and recommends that Edelen looks there. And some people think that this is her hinting that she's aware it's Edelen, and she's trying to send him a message saying, I'm onto you. But I actually don't think that. I think she's legitimately trying to help Edelen, because, she is quite upset. She did really love her husband, and she wants to help out with the investigation. I mean, we do also learn she's got her own investigation going on, led by Amaram. And I'm wondering if Amaran's brought Taln with him when he came to the Shattered Plains, which would be very curious that both of them are there on the at Urithiru. As Edelen says, Kaladin's not going to like that. And then we end the chapter with the first high storm of the year coming. Woohoo! So now we have chapter 23 called Storming Strange. This is another Kaladin and Friends chapter where he goes on Boy Scout adventures with his new Parshman buddies, and he's feeling very protective of the transformed Parshmen. And so do you know what? I'm actually at this point I'm going to stick him on the list of potential Odium's champions, just because he does really right now seem to be getting prepped for fighting for the other side. The other side. Because who knows what the hell is going on with these fucking Parshmen and Voidspren and Desolations. Because it seems it's a lot more complicated than we first thought, which might as well be the tagline of Oathbringer. And it's time to talk about the Voidspren, and I do think this is a Voidspren. Some people think that this is a Radiant Spren because of how intelligent it is, but I mean, why not both? It could be a Voidbinding Spren, because we have no idea what Voidbinding looks like so far. She seems very condescending to me, she seems very rude, she's very accusatory. She's actually exactly what I'd expect from a Voidspren, other than her image, which we're going to talk about, because she's Shin in appearance. She's got the large eyes of us Western folk. And this is really messing me up, because she's also explicitly walking on stone. So some people say she might be making her image in Razor's image, who obviously wouldn't have the epiphantic folds. But I think it is because she's either a stone spren for the walking on stone thing, and the Shin even talk about stone spirits. So, it makes sense that if there's Storm Spren, there must be Stone Spren. I think that just makes sense to me. And also, it's possible, I don't know if this one's slightly lesser, but I feel like she might almost be a Spren of, heresy? Of, she's explicitly making her image in an antagonistic kind of going against a religion way. So is she a heresy Spren? Is heresy an emotion? I don't think it is. It's just all very odd. She then mentions that when they get to their destination, there's going to be a higher authority that will decide what to do with Kaladin, and I do believe their destination is Kholinar. It just makes the most sense to me, and I'm so looking forward to getting to Kholinar. It's going to be great. And that's the end of that chapter. So, on to the last chapter, chapter 24, Men of Blood and Sorrow. And we start this chapter with Dalinar remembering Evie. And he mentioned she had pale yellow hair, not the golden that is typical of Iriali. And so I'm just definitely Vivenna. It seems Evie's memories are actually coming back slowly, so it does look like we're going to be having a bit of, narrative resonance with Dalinar, where we're going to learn Evie's memories along with him at the same time. And it also appears that the weeping has lasted a lot longer than expected, which is strange, just because according to calendar that I've been keeping, and Joffrey has been keeping a calendar as well, and I'll link to his calendar in the description, he also has worked out that it does seem like the weeping has ended roughly where it's supposed to have ended. And so I'm a little bit confused about why they're surprised at how long the weeping has lasted, how long it took for the next high storm to come, because it does seem to line up with about 10 days. which is 2 weeks in Russia. But oh well, who cares about the calendar, because Taravangian has arrived. He turns up with Adrutargia and his own little retinue. We get another mention of how good friends Gavilar and Taravangian were, which definitely makes me think that the man in robes in the prologue that was hanging out with Gavilar is definitely Taravangian at this point, in my opinion. To me, it also seems that Taravangian, I definitely think he's having an off day. I don't think he's pretending to be more stupid than he actually is. You know, even on a good day, if he has a reputation for being weak of mind, you know, people will still think of him in that way. You know, if he's on a very, very good day, he just wouldn't really think, because, you know, he gets a lot more analytical and a lot more clinical when he's at his higher end of his intelligence. So I don't think he'd even think to play up his stupidity. I think he's definitely having a lower end to mid-tier kind of day, where it's not so bad that they had to cancel the meeting, but it is so bad that they have to basically Adrutargia has to basically do all the talking for him. And we also get a little mention of, if people don't know, apoplexy is basically a stroke, and that is what Navani believes that has happened to Taravangian. And part of Taravangian's retinue, we have our new Radiant, introducing Malata of Yarkivet. She's a middle-aged woman who likes to wear gloves on both hands. She's a dustbringer, or a releaser as they like to be called. She likes to smirk at people and stays very quiet, but we knew that the dustbringers, the releasers, we knew they were weird ones anyway, so I'm not surprised she's a quiet one. So far, I don't think she's lying about any of this. Her shard blade isn't described as weirdly spike-like. It just sounds like it's a normal big old blade. It's got a flat part to it, and it just sounds like it's not talons on a blade in disguise. It also wouldn't make sense for someone who's got the stone wards on a blade to pretend to be a releaser. That just doesn't work out for me. And of course, just in case, I'm going to add her to the Might Be Vivenna list. We also have Dalinar offering to send some troops to Yarkivet to help control it. But Taravangian says, don't worry, our Parshmen are heading to Alethkar, and what I can only assume is going to be Kholinar as their final destination. One thing I've picked up on from this chapter, and now that I've picked up on it, I can't help but notice it, is how much Dalinar talks about his memories of Navani when he was younger. And I can't help but think the reason that Brandon keeps mentioning Dalinar's memories of Navani is because Dalinar is going to start forgetting Navani. Now, I've never been a huge fan of this theory. It was something that I originally thought was going to happen. I kind of became slightly less enthused about it just because it kind of didn't really... It's not a great storyline in my opinion, but we can trust in Brandon, so... If this is the way it's going to go, it does feel like it's setting up for that, just because of how much he talks about his memories of Navani, and you know, when that becomes missing, you know, we're going to feel that. Speaking of Navani, I'm actually a huge fan of her in this chapter, just because she's basically acting as a stand-in for us Sharders. She's confirming or disproving theories to try and work out why Dalinar's remembering Evie's memories, and whilst doing that, she's also confirming and disproving our theories. You know, she wants to double-check it's definitely not the Stormfather doing this, you know, which I think implies it's not the Stormlight healing doing this. But I was just generally very happy to see this, with Dalinar worrying that Malata's shard blade is a hidden honor blade, and with Navani wondering about the Stormfather healing the memories. It just felt really nice to have characters acting smart and being proactive and thinking of the things we would think of. And, you know, we're acting upon those things that we would be like, hey, if we were in this situation, we'd be suspecting this. And it's just nice. This is one of the reasons I like reading Brandon. Moving on, Dalinar definitely seems to be under the impression that he asked the Night Watchers to take his pain away, and that was his boon, and his curse was she also took his memories. Now, in my opinion, taking away his memories would take away the pain, so I'm not sure. So once again, the kind of boon, curse parts don't really align for me. You know, taking away his memories took away the pain, and so if now the memories are now coming back because they don't cause him pain anymore, that basically confirms that. So what was his curse? We then have a fun little explore of something called the Initiation Room. And this thing is interesting. It seems to have strange, glassy, foggy windows, which to me just kind of sound a bit like, you know, your standard stained glass windows. But they do sound a bit weird. And what's more interesting to me is the discs on the roof and the floor of the rooms make it seem like things were put there, like pillars, or things were there before which have been removed. And I'm like, what the hell was there? It could just be statues or pillars or something like that, but that doesn't feel right. You know, was it giant gems that held huge amounts of stormlight for incredible amounts of time as kind of like a backup? Was it just a load of statues of ash? Speaking of heralds, we also get another message from Tezim, the God King, which basically he says, I'm the herald of heralds, I'm the man of men, I'm the big dog here and you guys need to bow down to me. And I'm just like, at this point, I'm almost certain that he is a herald and that he is Ishar. And as much as I hate it when Argent is right, I'm going to link his corrupted herald's theory down below because I think he actually might be on the money about this. In Argent's words, the heralds have become corrupted in their kind of pursuit of their divine attributes. And so Ishar being Tezim and calling himself the God King would be like Nail calling himself the confident judge, or Yezrien calling himself the protective leader. It just fits so well for me at this point. I mean, plus, what a great storyline that would be, where you've got the first bondsmith in thousands of years having to fight the herald of his own order. And not just that, Ishar was the guy who founded the Knights Radiant in the first place. So you'd also have the guy who originally created the Knights Radiant fighting the guy who was trying to refound the Knights Radiant. It just works not just on that kind of, it makes sense in world kind of way, but it just works on a narrative level, just oomph. We then end on Dalinar's ethical quandary of, why don't I just conquer everyone? And I don't doubt he could do it, but it's a hell of a question, but it does kind of interfere with that whole unite people instead of dividing them thing. And the very last sentence has Dalinar saying he's viewing his memories of Evie from a new and dangerous perspective. And I'm like, what could that mean? Finally, I would also like to say I'm really glad I waited till today to record my videos, because literally an hour ago we had the Barnes & Noble posted on Twitter a copy of, Oathbringer with the first bit of artwork within the inside pages, and it is absolutely stunning. Done by Dan Dos Santos. We've already had confirmation that these are in-world pieces of art. On the left we have Ishar, Herald of Luck and patron to the bondsmiths. On the right we have an absolute amazing piece of Shalash, the Herald of Beauty and patron for the Lightweavers. We also then had confirmation from Brandon within the comments, so these are the first two pages, but on the back two pages we'll also have a piece of artwork of Yezrien, who is the patron for the Windrunners, and Videl, who is patron for the Edge Dancers. All around, I absolutely love these pieces, and I really hope that they're part of the UK hardbacks, because I really, really want to see these in my book. And that's it for today. Thank you for joining me once again. As per usual, please leave comments down below if you think I've got anything wrong, if you've got any other opinions. I'm always available for chatting on the Discord. I've got the 17th Shard post on Reddit. And thank you very much for joining me this week. And I hope you can join me next time, where we can continue walking to Urithiru. Bye!